So I had lunch with someone yesterday who said to me, Sam, I have no idea how you have so many obligations and get so much done, but seem to do it without it looking like it's hard work. So I thought I would share my great superpower. And that is that I am an extreme morning person. For context, I get up somewhere between 4:30 and 5:30 most days without an alarm. I just wake up. In case you're thinking that I am depriving myself of sleep or something like that, I do go to bed quite early, somewhere between 9 and 10 typically. I need about 7 hours of sleep, good sleep, in order to be able to function. I have mentioned previously I saw a sleep coach a long time ago, and I do a lot of things to give myself the right environment to have great sleep and to fall asleep quite quickly and to get good quality of sleep throughout the night. I've found that getting up really early like this is a great gift because it gives me the time and opportunity to really get stuff done before the world wakes up and starts wanting me to be places and do things and starts contacting me and all that sort of stuff. So the first thing that I do when I wake up is meditate. That takes about 10 or 15 minutes. It's not a big chunk of my day, but I found that it really sets me up well for the rest of the day and really allows me to be able to settle my mind and make sure I'm in a good place. It only happens though when I do it regularly. It's not kind of a one-off thing that is beneficial, at least for me anyway. The next thing I do is usually make coffee. I am a big fan of coffee. I generally get all my coffee consumption done well before 7 a.m. Occasionally I'll have another coffee in the morning, but for the most part, it's done well before most people are probably even out of bed. After that, if it's a weekday anyway, I will have a look at what my schedule entails for the day. I'll have a look at meetings that are in my calendar, make sure I've covered any pre-reading that is required. If I'm meeting people for the first time, I will look at their LinkedIn profiles and those sorts of things and basically make sure I know what's on for the day. After that, when I'm not working or making videos or doing other sorts of projects, I'm doing my doctorate in business. And that involves a lot of reading. Principally, it involves reading other research papers, new research that's come out, things that you've just discovered, all those sorts of things. So I will generally plow through a paper in particular. The other thing that I do around this time is go through my Chinese flashcards. Now, when I have had conversations with my teacher or I've been watching TV shows or whatever it might be, I will generally pick up new words. And part of what I do is take those words and make flashcards that are unique to me and put them in an app on my phone. So I will spend probably 10 or 15 minutes just going through those as part of a practice. I will refer to them then throughout the day, like when I'm waiting for a car or when I'm waiting for someone before a meeting, I will kind of go through flashcards and that sort of thing. The other thing that I do is then look at my Chinese social profiles. Now, it's worth pointing out that in China, almost all foreign social platforms are blocked. So we don't have anything in the Facebook family. So Facebook, Instagram, anything like that. We also don't have anything in the Google family. So obviously Google as a search engine, but we also don't have WhatsApp or anything like that. We also don't have Snapchat. We don't even have TikTok, despite being owned by ByteDance. We do, however, in the case of TikTok, have Douyin, which is the original version of TikTok. We have a whole bunch of other social platforms as well. So I have a few favorites that I go through and have a look at. And what that does is help me see what is going on in the rest of China outside the city that I live in. It also gives me the benefit of hearing people speak in different accents, use different vocabulary and all those sorts of things. If there's anything particularly cool that I see or particularly interesting, I will often take it and post it on LinkedIn, which is the one Western platform that we still have access to in China. And I do this because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there about what it's really like in China. And so I like to be able to share some of what's happening here to be able to, give people all over the world a view as to what it's really like here, because it's incredible and there is a lot of cool stuff going on. After all of that, as you can see from what I'm wearing now, I will generally go for a run or go to a gym class. Now, when I lived in Australia, gym classes actually started very early. You could get a class like at the local Pilates studio that I used to go to, which would start at 5:45 in the morning. Shout out to my friends who thought that it was okay to go with me at that time of day. And that meant that I would typically get up, meditate, and then go do that class. Now, however, in China, the earliest classes with some exceptions, generally start around 7 or 7:30. This means that if I get up at 4:30, I've still got a large chunk of time before I have to be at class. The same is true if I'm just going for a run and I don't have to go to a class. Often my boyfriend and I will run together, and as I said, he needs a couple of more hours sleep than me, so I will do all of those other things while I'm waiting for him to be ready to get up. Now, before you think I'm some kind of crazy productivity nut, I do believe that exercise is a really great opportunity for me to just do nothing, for me to not have to think about it, for me not have to listen to things, not have to do stuff, and for me to just be in my body and kind of contemplate the world. Years ago, I would listen to vocabulary for a language that I was learning. Today, I do occasionally listen to a podcast when I run. It's very rare now. Usually, I might listen to music or something like that if I'm running, just because I enjoy the beat. But if I'm at a class, obviously, that's not the case. So I used to think that getting up this early was actually just a matter of discipline. But it's become very apparent to me over the years, and I have actually read stuff that says that that's just not the case. I do believe that if you want to try this and you want to get up early and there's priorities in your life, things that you seem to not find the time for, then training yourself to get up early is quite possible. Perhaps not as early as me, but I definitely think 6:30 is possible for a lot of people. I do, however, believe that if you ever find yourself saying, I just don't have the time for that, or I just can't find the time, you need to reframe that in your mind to be, it's just not a big enough priority for me, because that's true. The really important thing, though, is if you are going to make the effort to be getting up this early and to be getting up early to get stuff done, so that you actually do something valuable with the time rather than just kill it by snoozing or going through social media and that sort of stuff. So if it's big enough importance to you to be able to do all those things, then and getting up early, then you need to be able to give yourself a bit of structure. So that's it. I hope that was kind of helpful to someone out there, to people to understand a little bit more about the way I do all of these things. It is now about 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning. As you can see, I've been for a run, I've made coffee, I've meditated, I've done my social stuff, I've chatted to a camera for a little while, and I am ready to go eat and then get on with my commitments for the day. I will catch you later. Hey guys, so I thought I would show you what is happening right now, kind of behind the scenes on one of the experiments that I'm doing. I've used Chinese social media for like a few years now for a couple of reasons. One, because it is so different to what we get in the West. It is quite advanced, but also the styles and the kind of cultural nuance and things like that are really far removed from what we see overseas. I also feel that it gives me a far deeper and richer understanding of Chinese culture that I wouldn't necessarily get just from observing people in the city that I live in. I've used it for a long time in terms of I've looked at the content and interacted with it, but I've never created my own content. And some of my friends recently decided that they really wanted me to try creating my own content. Now, I thought that this was a worthwhile experiment, mostly because of the work that I do. I thought it was really useful for me to not just observe, but actually to understand what happens behind the scenes, how a lot of the enormous influencers and KOLs that we have in this market actually kind of do what they do. Anyway, I will show you what I've got going on here. As you can see, I've got like a light ring. This is a setup that you would get in a lot of places in the world. What I find really interesting is that it's specially designed for live streaming. It's difficult for me to show you, but it actually came with two brackets, one for the master phone or device that you have in the center of the ring, and then another one that actually holds 3 devices underneath so that you can simultaneously live stream on up to kind of 4 different channels. I've also seen people, I'll try and put a photo in this video of people with like a bank of different ones that are all live streaming on all different channels and all these sorts of things all at the same time. The other thing that I've actually got here, I'm going to try and show you, is a Chinese phone. Now, the reason I use a Chinese phone is because the like camera quality and the editing ability and things like that that you get in the Chinese apps and with the Chinese phones is a lot more advanced and kind of generally more flattering, if I'm really honest. And that is kind of the expectation in this market, that you're going to be using those sorts of tools and that sort of stuff in order to be able to make it happen. Now, the reason this is all set up in my kitchen is because today I'm actually going to be creating content about what foreigners eat. I know that seems really weird to a lot of people, but it's actually one of the questions that I get asked the most by like cab drivers and things like that. When they realize that I can speak some degree of Chinese, they will ask me, what is it that foreigners eat? What do you do? What do you wear? All these sorts of things. So I'm starting with what I eat for breakfast. Anyway, that's me. I will let you know how I go with this little experiment of sorts and report back. So some of you guys might have heard about cryotherapy. It had a real moment a few years ago, and I used to do it when I lived in Australia, but it was super expensive there, so it wasn't something that I could afford to do kind of on an ongoing basis. And usually with these things, it is like repetitive use or repetitive exposure or whatever it is that really kind of creates the benefits that they claim. I've found a place that's just opened in China that is really competitively priced. So I've signed up to do it like every week for about 10 weeks so I can see whether or not it has a lot of the benefits that it claims. I'll talk about it in a separate video, but what I thought I would do is show you guys kind of what it looks like behind the scenes. The setup here is quite different to the one that's in Australia. In Australia, it was like a single room that could fit kind of 3 people or so in it, whereas here they're individual kind of chamber units. I'll show you guys so you can see what it looks like until I have tried it enough to say whether or not it has any of the benefits for me that it claims. So let's go have a look.
Most people do that temperature.
Negative 180.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm keen. Next time, negative 180.
Yeah.
Do you do it very often?
No, I actually can't take the cold very well. I've only done it once, and I could only do 1.5 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay, you're done.
So I think it has been well and truly established at this point that I have no clue what I'm doing when it comes to YouTube. However, if my observations are accurate, it is rude or at the very least unconventional for you to just end a video with no formal goodbye, farewell, anything along those lines, and instead just end with some music and someone in a cryo chamber. So this is me saying goodbye. Thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.